So I was debating whether or not to record this portion of the video, mainly because I'm not sure how helpful it'll be for the people watching. But I get the sense that some of you are skilled programmers who are just interested in the NES, and some of you are at the beginning of your journey learning how to program and write code, and some of you know nothing about writing code and are just interested to see what goes into making an NES game. And we're in an interesting time where we have the ability to record hours and hours and hours of video talking about this process and showing what the process looks like and exploring what tools are available and doing stuff that would never have been possible back when the NES was I won't say relevant but current, back in the 80s when the system was initially released. So I wanted to put this part in the beginning of this video because there's been some discussion going on recently related to the making of NES games specifically, but I think it applies to all games and all software, and I wanted to talk about that a little bit before I got started on working on some things for tonight here on the recording. And we can talk about this more on the live stream on Thursday if you're interested in following up the discussion. So there's been this debate going on about using tools to program for the NES and using C versus assembly and what's actually homebrew, what's not actually homebrew. And that's not to differentiate between things like ROM hacking or homebrew, because that's a whole different thing. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about people who are discussing openly the difference between building an NES game using, what we're doing, text editors and assemblers and homemade tools versus people using other tools as like NES Maker, and this really carries over to other tools that you might have seen, like Unity, like RPG Maker, like Game Maker, right? They're all tools that are out there that people use to make games in a variety of genres and with varying degrees of success. So you take a look at a game like The Witness, which is a great game if you've never played it and you like puzzle games, and you like gameplay very tightly tied to the narrative. That was built by hand, from scratch or from code that was written by that team, without the use of libraries or engines, I should say. And then you look at a game like Hyper Light Drifter, which is a great game also, and that was built in Game Maker. There's an RPG that was made, I guess, a while ago now, but was considered very good, called To the Moon. That was made using RPG Maker. And all I'm trying to point out is that there are a variety of ways to make games, and those ways of making games have different challenges. So a little additional background on me to kind of start off the point I want to make, which is that I've been wanting to make games for about 20 years now. Only recently doing this because I realized that this was something that I could attain because of the scale and scope of what the NES offers. And I learned to program because I wanted to make games. Programming was something that I didn't know anything about. My parents didn't know anything about computers or programming. My uncles did, but in our household, we only had a computer because of one of my uncles, and then later through sort of pestering my parents that we should get a computer. They bought a good computer, but I was already in middle school at that point when that happened. And I took it upon myself to learn programming because I was interested in making games. I had a friend whose father was, I think he was an electrical engineer, and he, they had computers in their house, and they uh, were knowledgeable about, what it took to write software and build hardware. And from him, I learned that you could write code. You could sit there in front of a computer and write something out and make stuff happen on the computer, which was not something that I knew about. And it probably sounds ridiculous, but when you're a kid and you're just sitting there playing games, it's not something that you really think about, right? You just kind of, it's there. You just, it's like my daughter was asking about how apps are made on the iPad, and she doesn't know. She's a kid, right? And it's not something that is necessarily intuitive to understand how. Like, obviously they get there somehow, but that process was kind of an unknown. So for me, learning that it was something that could be done, and finding books on my own in the libraries to learn how to program was something that I was extremely interested in, and I taught myself how to program, and that's kind of how I got into all of this. And I eventually went to school for software engineering and music, but computer science and music, and got a job because I was interested and worked hard at it, and continue to have a job writing software today. But my point is that the things that drove me to learn programming and become good at programming, those things are no different whether you're using RPG Maker, NES Maker, Game Maker. It doesn't matter. Um, there's, it's not that there's no wrong way to make a game, because there are definitely wrong ways to make a game. Um, but my point is, it's not about the tools. It's about understanding why the tools work the way they do and what the trade-offs are for using the tools, right? Because you can get a tool like RPG Maker and you get an RPG, in 5 minutes, but is that really the RPG that you want to make? Um, Same thing with Unity or Unreal Engine. It's like, yeah, you can get 3D shapes displaying on screen, but is that all you want to do? Do you want to make, sort of a very basic program that might be a game, or do you want to make something that's really meaningful for you and then hopefully for other people? So you have to really spend the time to understand kind of what you're getting into when you're using one of these tools. And what we're doing here on this channel, it's not for everybody, and I totally get that. Um, you know, if this were a business right now, we wouldn't be doing this. We'd be using more tools. We'd be leveraging engines. We'd be on tight deadlines. We'd be using things that are modular, replaceable. There'd be a team of people, obviously not just me, and we'd be leveraging things that lots of people know about, right? When you program in a company, um, you're writing software in a way that, if you or somebody else leaves, you want to make sure you're doing something that you can get additional people to come in and replace you or that other person, which is just the hard reality of working in a business environment. And that's not always true, but it is true in most businesses, and even in the games industry. They need people to make the games, and while it is a creative endeavor, it's also a business. So what we're doing here is, covering how to make the game from scratch because that's what I like, and I want to capture that process for people who are like-minded. I know that you can use engines and libraries and stuff like that, and we will be for like the sound, for example. We'll probably be using an engine because there's just a lot to do there. It's a very time-consuming process to build a sound engine. But for the most part, I mean, we spent some time working on understanding how the sound gets generated on the NES in the last episode. And the reason we did that is so that we're not entering into this completely blind to how all of that works, because I don't want to get into a situation where we're using an engine and it's not playing back the way that we expect, and it's a black box. We have no idea how it works or why, and we can't diagnose, debug, discover what the problem is. So it's, to me at least, it's really important that even if you're using higher level tools or more advanced tools that save you time, it's really important to understand why it saves you time and what it's doing and why it's doing it, so that when something doesn't happen the way you need it to or the way it's supposed to, you have an understanding of how to fix the problem. And you know, the other thing is that I just enjoy understanding this stuff. Like, I enjoy challenging myself to using assembly to build the game. I could have done it, you know, we could have been done with most of this game probably if we had decided we were going to make this as a PC game in Unity or Game Maker, but that's not the challenge that I wanted to set for myself. I wanted to make something that ran on an actual NES. I mean, let me just grab something here. It's like, sorry, I wasn't prepared to do this. You know, it's like this game, right? This game made me like games. It made me want to make games and play games more than any other game. And I want to understand what it took to make a game like that. And that's how we're doing it here. So I totally understand if this is not the way you want to do it, and that's fine. Find your way, right? Find a way to make something that you care about in the way that works for you. Don't let anybody tell you that your way is you know, less good than somebody else. Because as long as you're making a game that's good, and that you care about and you put effort into, that's all that matters. If you're at the end of it, you're proud of what you did, you know, it doesn't matter if it may not sell millions of copies and it may not be critically acclaimed, but if you're proud of what you did, then, you know, you just move on and you do the next thing. And you know, 5 years from then, you might look back and go, wow, that game was crap. That was a horrible game. But, you know, that means you've grown. That means you've learned something and you've improved the craft of making games. And that's how you get better. So yeah, so and the other kind of hilarious thing is that people are always arguing, well, you know, if you use an engine, your game isn't going to be good or whatever. It's like, look, there are plenty of people who write crap games from scratch. Making a good game isn't dependent on being able to write assembly code. Making a good game is dependent on making a good game and understanding what it takes to make a good game. And that's a skill separate from just the programming part. The programming part is translating that idea for the game to whatever hardware you want it to run on. Making a good game is about having ideas, testing those ideas, determining if they're fun, and if they're not, getting rid of them and trying something else. And really working at the skill of determining what's actually fun in a game. So anyway, sorry for the rant. I just kind of wanted to put that out there because I feel like we spend a lot of time in the game development realm, and I can't even say, you know, in the game development community at large, because they don't really know too many people in that community directly, but there's a lot of discussion around this topic. And again, it's not to say that there's no value in learning these skills that we're talking about with assembly language and understanding how this hardware works. That's actually the opposite. You get there's a lot of relevance to learning how to do this, because it translates upwards, right? When you start writing code at higher levels, like you write code in C#, if you understand how the CPU works and how the operating system works and how memory works and how all these things work, you're going to write better code in C#, because you're going to make decisions that make sense for the hardware versus just writing something because it sounds like it probably works. So yeah, I mean, anyway, hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully I'm just telling people stuff they already know, but for the people watching this specifically, I just wanted to point that out, because I know I make a big deal about the fact that we're doing this in assembly in 6502 for the NES for the hardware, but you know, just make a game. If that's what you want to do, make it however you want. If you want it for the NES, go for it. If you want it for the Super NES, it's fine too. Just make it, let people play it, spread enjoyment and happiness to the people who do play it, because that's what it's about. If you can make something that people enjoy and want to share and get some value out of, then that's pretty awesome. That's more than a lot of people get out of whatever endeavor they're doing, and it's a pretty special thing. So anyway, let's get back into this. This is episode 116 in this series, where we're programming an NES game from scratch. So in the last episode, I had implemented some audio code that I'm going to now comment out and make sure it is not playing anymore, because it was not good music, and it was done specifically for the reason of just understanding how the audio hardware worked. One thing I want to fix here is that because of the way that the map is being loaded, we never get this enemy bullet stream to show up, because it's already past the point of the camera when we start the game. So what I want to do is I want to actually move this over, and eventually I will remember how exactly that's done in tiled when we're not going for so long between using it. So yeah, and again, sorry if that little rant there seemed unnecessary or unhelpful, but I felt like I needed to kind of put my point out there, for people to hear, since we have over 1,000 people subscribed to this channel now, and I mean, I must be providing some information that's useful to people, and I just wanted to make it clear that, you know, this is just one path. So, oh, I gotta save this. So let's see. So we gotta export our project here. That was done. Hopefully nothing has broken in the interim of working on any of these things, but we will find out shortly. right. Good news so far. Everything seems to have loaded as expected. The enemies still don't show up though here. Which is strange because I know that if we transition back into the map, that we are definitely loading the enemies again. What I wanted to do once we get this kind of squared away is I wanted to fix the ship collision because it's incorrectly colliding with the non-existent background when we switch to repeat scroll mode. So we should probably fix that. So there it is there. We also should fix the fact that it appears on screen like that when the overscan is turned off. So that's interesting because if we look here, the ship is there. It's way towards the top. I mean, in the map, the way that this is supposed to work is that the enemies are sorted by the export tool, and then we just check to see if the next enemy in the list is at the camera position. The only thing I can think of is that there's either a bug with that or some sort of issue with the value for the position of the enemy. So let's so compare. So we've got the enemy index, load a enemy index, shift left twice, so that's multiplying by 4, transfers A to Y, comparing X to level object count, which shouldn't be a problem. Alright, let's take a look at the debugger and see what the issue is. Actually, that's since we talked about it at the beginning of this episode, the debugger is a good example of yet another tool that we use that, to the extent that we have it now, wouldn't have been available on the original NES, right? So having an emulator like this to run the code on a PC, I don't think would have been available, and certainly not a debugger that's as fully capable as what we have here. So let's see. What is level object count set to? We don't know yet because we haven't loaded the level. So level object count. 8. 8? 8 seems wrong because there should just be 1. Did we break something in load level? Let's take a look at that. Alright, so when we start the game and we load the map up, the value is 8, but it seems incorrect. So let's do a few things. Let's take a look at the exported map 1. So there's just this one enemy object, which is fine, because that's what it should be. Let's take a look at the exported. All right, so load level. Load a param 3 branch if not equal. So we're initializing this stuff. Load a 2 store swap. Load x1 store x in scroll y. Load a level object x. Huh. A level 1 object. So this is the object. Oh, I wonder if that's the problem. Should it have been 0 because of... We changed it to 1 because of the scrolling being off by 1 when you start, where we want to make sure that we don't roll over right away. I assume that that's probably the issue. So it's reading byte number 1 instead of byte 0, which has the actual count in it. So let's, and then that would explain why it works potentially. Well, that wouldn't explain why it works. It might explain why it works coming into it when we're swapping. It's possible X is 0. Not really something good to assume coming in here, and that would cause some issues, potentially even later loading other enemy types. So load level, where did you go? Why do you not have a breakpoint anymore? I'm going to keep the actual coding to sort of a minimum tonight, just because it's past 11 already, and I've been up very late for work for the past several nights, and getting up early also. So I am a little bit fuzzy-brained, and I certainly don't need any excuses to make mistakes, but when I'm tired, I just tend to make more. So we'll try to avoid that tonight. That's the other kind of interesting thing I think about programming in 6502 is that it's kind of nice to have something pretty straightforward, if not verbose, that will, you know, it's challenging at times. I don't know. It's just fun for me to do this, to do it in assembly. And if I'm going to be working on something like this, I want it to be fun the whole way through, from beginning to end. Alright, so I don't know if you saw that or not. I sort of only barely saw it. The enemy spawned there as it should have. And now the only other thing that's kind of off is that we are not spawning the top level sprite properly. When we spawn it, it is on the top of the screen, not off screen. And I think we want it to enter off screen. So let's see. So let's initialize this. Let's do it just 8 down, or sorry, just a full 8 pixels up off the top of the screen. which means that we would wrap around and it would be what would it be? Would it be F8? Now, the challenge is going to be that not every enemy will spawn properly that way, because some will be bigger than just the 8 pixels. But you can see, if we go to the PBU viewer, if we go to the sprite viewer, so there are our little bullet sprites, but there is also the main enemy sprite, which is actually off screen right now. Let's see if we can find out which one that is. Well, any of those would work because they're at the 254 position, which kind of puts them off screen. Since we only have 240 pixels. So anyway, it is now working properly with even the overscan turned off, so that's good. Let's just double check that those bullet collisions actually still work as expected. Yep, that's cool. All right, so now we have the other problem that we were looking at before, which is that once we get to the point where we're doing the repeat scroll mode, the ship is still checking collision against background data. So where is that? Swap to map mode. Is that in the I don't remember where. Is that in the player assembly code? Check collision loop. Check out collision pointer counter. Okay, yeah. So this is looking at the map data to determine if the player ship is collided with the background. And basically what we want to do is we want to get rid of this if we're not in background map mode. In the map mode specifically versus repeat scroll. Now, the reason that we might not want to do this later is we might decide that it's not a reasonable restriction to have not a reasonable restriction to have that the last screen of the map has no collisions. Because as soon as we switch to repeat scroll mode, we will then have this problem of not having valid collision data where it's looking. And it's looking at the collision data for the maps at this adder param. And adder param, as I recall, this guy here, that is the parameter of the map data on the ROM. So we could figure out a way to make it work. I think it's a valid restriction to have right now, to just basically say, you know, like basically what we have here. What we have here, not okay, because this is collidable, these are collidable, but the but we skip to repeat scroll mode, and so as a result the collision becomes an issue. So let's fix that. Let's put water here. And then, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, well, it actually tells me on the bottom. I don't know why I'm counting. Get rid of that. Oops. Let's put the collidable tiles, maybe, let's do something like right here towards the bottom of the screen. Actually, let me think about that. We have 16? That's the tile. Where's the map? I can't remember how big the map is. It is... Oh. Why is it showing that the map is so much bigger? It's 20 by 15, basically, right? Because it starts at 0. So 20 by 16. Let's increase the size a little bit, just to have some wiggle room. It's going to let me do that? No. Okay. Map. Resize map. 16. No, I don't want to do 100 tiles. I don't want 20 either. Let's say 32. Okay, cool. So now I can draw. I'm going to have to start coming up with... I have some ideas for the actual map scenarios, the levels, the real levels for the game, but haven't really put them together in any sort of meaningful way. I got to get on that so we can start building some of the real level assets here. So that we can start building gameplay. So let's do some collidable paths. I don't know. I don't even know if this is going to make sense to do. Let's just see what that looks like. And re-export that. Depending on the positioning of the ship, we may end up with a unusable map here. But this will be all part of stuff that will work out as we're building things. We might want to do something where we start with a fast repeat scroll that then transitions over to the map, kind of to have a fly-in. That would be cool. That would be neat. Sort of like giving you a moment to get ready. Another thing I want to do, which was something I saw, I'm pretty sure they do it in Crisis Force, but also in a few other games. It'd be really cool to... why this not... This didn't actually re-export anything, did it? Let's try again. Add a ship shadow and, make it... Oh, I ran the wrong thing. A ship shadow, and make it... That's weird. Where did you export to? Sorry, interrupted that thought. A ship shadow that, that kind of follows along, would look cool. Why are you saying you exported but you did not? See, this is the downside to writing your own tool, is that you write buggy code in your tools and then it doesn't work. you doing? Is this on a break point? What is going on? Let's try this again. There we go. All right, so it said it exported. Oh, it actually exported. That's weird. I wonder what happened there. So this should be interesting then. Okay. So very, oh, it's a very unforgiving passage here to navigate. The good thing is it seems like the that whole collision point thing is pretty spot on, because it's at least it felt reasonable when I crashed there that I should have. It didn't feel like it, sometimes you crash into stuff, especially with older games. You know, you hit things and it feels like, you know, it wasn't accurate, and you got robbed of a player, of a life. It doesn't feel that way right now. It just feels like it's really twitchy, and I'm not doing particularly well at navigating it. All right, so cool. So that worked, and that actually exported. And now the enemy should spawn momentarily, because it's sort of towards the top of the level. Oh, now that's interesting. What did it collide with? Oh, you know what? It's because I forgot. We got rid of the bumper at the top of the map. So the enemy being there is kind of our signal that we've reached the top. So, okay, good. Good. We're in a good spot. So what we want to do now is, for the player, what we want to do is check if we're in repeat scroll mode or not. So BG mode, compare to, we can close that, close that, close that. Background mode. Background mode. Repeat scroll. Branch if equal to where is our collision done? Check collision loop. Just to entity object complete. Okay, so entity object complete. So hopefully that will range error, of course. Oh. Gotta remember to actually, I want to have the ship actually make it through. Probably should have made something a little less challenging if I wanted to do that, but I was just kind of having fun with it. Hoping sometime soon we can get some more actual art worked in, like the title screen and the ship. The ship we could probably do. I just hadn't done it yet because I was kind of waiting, hoping we would have the title screen done soon, but yeah. Alright, so we're in repeat scroll mode now, or at least should be. Let's take a look at the camera. Now, one thing that's interesting is that the camera value is high enough that it's pretty clear that we're in repeat scroll mode, because it will have reset. So the interesting thing is that you'll notice that the repeating scroll tiles are the water instead of the bumper, which isn't a bad thing. It's just it's different from what it was before, and I guess the way it loaded up the map and exported things, the order got changed. So something to keep in mind. And then, like we were talking about, we will do a segment where, you know, we go from sort of this speed to, you know, it'll increase, and then it'll increase, and then it'll increase, and it'll get faster and faster to the point where, unfortunately, I can't speed the emulator up enough to kind of, yeah, something like that, where, barring the ship being quite so fast there, we will, you know, get to a point where it will look like we have sort of descended. Oh, you know, we should also probably wait before checking collisions to make sure that well, this is going to be a little bit trickier than I thought, because even though we were in map mode, we were at a position on the screen where we shouldn't have been checking for collisions, because we were only partially loaded. If we go back, well, it's not even worth it. If you were paying attention to what was going on there, you could see that we had the repeat scroll mode, and then the map loaded up, and so we started seeing the map, but there's nothing here, right? So there's no valid collision data there for it to check, but it was checking it anyway because we had switched back to background mode, or background map mode, I should say. So we need to figure out a way to not only check, are we in background map mode, but are we at a position where it even makes sense to check against the map. We can do something where when we load the level, we can have like a max camera, like a max collision camera sort of thing. I wonder if we use even half of these. So half split isn't used anywhere. Get rid of that. The new tiles and attribute buffer are definitely used, so we can even put some comments here. So that's that. Right. So we're using it there. We're also using it there. So lower and upper name table. New row of 32 tiles to be written to PPU when the name table should be updated. This is mapping of local map metatile values to the global set of metatiles. Current position of current row position in attribute buffer. Current game state. Controller bits is read from player 1. Should probably move this here. Used in conjunction with controller to determine if a button was previously pressed already. Global position of the camera, 16-bit. Oh man, sprite mem. I don't remember what that's for. Row mem, pointer to current row of map data. Pointer to beginning of level memory as was previously loaded by load level. Yep. I don't know why this is all the way over here. Current value of X scroll register. Won't bore you by doing this for everything else, but figured while I was feeling inspired to do it, I should. This should probably get moved to be with these guys over here, since they're logically sort of part of the same. Got a lot of variables. Okay, so what we wanted to do, let's there's a level object count and stuff like that, so let's say level max max y. Oh, I forgot the colon. Maximum possible y position in the currently loaded map. Right. Of objects in the map in total. Position where the level object data, not position, pointer to the level object data on ROM. maximum rows of the map. You could actually probably use that. May not even need this. We could use max rows and do the well. Let's store it for now. We can always change it to be recalculated later. We're not necessarily short on memory right at this very moment, so we don't have to worry about saving those 2 bytes if we can not have to recalculate it every time. All right, so let's go to load level. So max rows. Okay, so let's... Oh, the good news is we're calculating this all here anyway, and then we're essentially adjusting the camera position at that point. All right, so put a camera Y position, store it into max. What did I call it? Level max Y. So basically what we're doing is we're just copying the calculated Y position based on the max rows, which we were doing anyway because we wanted to calculate the starting position of the camera. And then if we're loading the map from scratch where we weren't previously scrolling, we're subtracting the 15 rows from it. If we are coming into it from scrolling previously, then we don't do that because we want to transition smoothly without forcing a reload of the whole screen or a jump in the camera or anything like that. So we've got our level max Y here now. So we have a couple of comparisons we can do now. So if we see that we're in repeat scroll mode, we don't even bother checking collision on the map now. So then the next thing we want to do is we want to load and we want to load the Y world position and compare it to max level max Y, right? That's what I called it. Yep. And it's if it's not equal, skip collision. That's not the right test, but just bear with me a second here. Skip collision. No. Yeah. And then let's just make this process collision. Okay. Do the load. Do the comparison. If it's smaller than if A is smaller than let me think about that. So if we subtract, if the value of A is bigger than it, then the carry will be clear, which means that we are past the max Y, so we should not bother doing the comparison. So if the carry is clear, do that, and then we got to do the same thing to, didn't spell that right, that we're comparing the two sets of bytes, right? All right, so no scope camera. Case sensitive. Try again, please. Thank you. All right, let's reload that. I don't care if we... Oh, I guess I do. Haha, okay. Did I reverse that? I'm sure I did. I'm sure I just... Because I always do that, and it doesn't help that I'm tired right now. So, load the player's Y position, and then compare it to level max Y. If level max Y is less than... the carry would be set still. So, yeah, I just reversed the condition. It's really as simple as that most of the time. Right? No, we're still not colliding. Load background mode. Compare repeat scroll. Branch not equal. We're not even getting that far. I just reversed every single condition, didn't I? All right. Why am I being dumb right now? Load background mode. Compare to repeat scroll. Branch if equal to skip collision. So if we're in repeat scroll... Oh. Well, that would help. See, that's that is the nice thing about using higher level languages, is that they tend to have structures that are more easily readable when it comes to determining where things begin and end. And I guess switch this back because I had corrected it, I think. No, what the hell? Alright, let's look at the debugger, because obviously I'm just making dumb mistakes here, and not helped by it. I'm trying to do this quickly and talk at the same time. Okay. So let's see what stroke of genius I've had here that's contributing. Background mode is 1, compare, it's not skipping. Okay, so check level max Y. Oh, well, yeah, I guess that's not gonna work. For some reason I was... how would you... I guess it works if you check the... So the problem is I'm comparing the 2 bytes of the variables, which doesn't really make sense the way I'm doing it. I'm checking the lower byte, and if one is bigger than the other, then it skips, and then vice versa, it doesn't. But we should be checking the more significant byte, the most significant byte first, because if the most significant byte of the player is bigger than the most significant byte of the max Y, then we're done, right? The least significant byte only matters if the most significant byte is smaller. I'm not explaining this well, so just... So if we have, 2FE and 0, 3, let's do 202, and this is 0, 1. If we start with these bytes, we're going to get a false check because this is definitely bigger, but because we're checking this byte first, we're going to say this is actually bigger, which is not true. So we got to check these first and then these. So check that, compare it. If the Y world position is bigger and we subtract this, then the carry will be, if this is bigger than that, then we skip. Yeah. And then if this is bigger than that, so if this is not bigger than that, we will go to here, and then if this is bigger than that, then we should skip. No, that's not right either, is it? Because, let me think, if it's equal to, in the first case, then we would want to check this. If this is smaller than that, the carry is clear. But at that point, okay, so we really want to do branch if equal. So if they're equal, then we need to check the lower byte, the least significant byte. If it's lower, if it's less than, then the carry will be clear. So if the carry is set, then we want to skip collision. Because we only care about it if it's less than or equal to the lower, the least. Actually, if the carry is, yeah, I kind of, if the most significant byte is smaller than the other one, then the whole thing is going to be smaller. So we just, at that point, it's okay to check the collision. So if the Y position is smaller than level max Y, we will get, the carry will be clear. So we want to process the collision. Otherwise, so if it was equal, so if it wasn't equal, but it wasn't, the carry wasn't clear, then the carry must have been set. So we're going to check this. And I just want to double check. I'm pretty sure that in a subtraction where the values are equal, the carry stays set. But I want to make sure, just because I don't want to be wrong about that. All right, so clear, set carry, load A, subtract. Yeah, it's still set. So if we made this 1, 0, then it would be clear. Good, okay. So I think that's it. It was a little more complicated than I was thinking initially. Not that it was complicated, but it was a little more, the checking of the 16-bit value is a little bit more involved than I was thinking it was. There we go. So we actually collided that time. Let's make sure that we can make it through. that we don't get any errant collisions here, and then I'm going to call it a night, because this has been just over an hour, and it's getting close to midnight, and I am done. Hopefully you didn't mind my... Hopefully you didn't mind my little rant in the beginning. Hopefully you found it useful to have those things articulated to you if you've never seen or heard those sort of things before. You know, just do your thing. So interesting. So the collision is now not working for the map. Shouldn't be in repeat scroll mode. The Y world position should be appropriate. So let's rewind here a bit and see what's going on. I'm gonna have to disable that pause. It's I keep doing that, and it's annoying because instead of pausing the emulator like I should, I pause the game, which means that we have to rewind for the duration of the pause, and that's just wastes time. Right. So let's go back into that code. And it's towards the bottom. Okay, so it's not repeat scroll. The Y, whoa, FF. No, really? Did I reverse the bytes? It's totally possible that that's what happened. Hold on a second. I mean, not that they're reversed, but they are wondering if they're in opposite order. Objects. You're going to show me the address of objects. No. So objects is at 200. So 3. Yeah. So I wonder if I've just got my bytes in flipped order for the object versus the I mean, that would make sense why it doesn't compare it properly. So let's see. No. So, huh. What do we have here? Y world position 1. So the value is 201 is the max Y position of the world. So what is the player's current position? $392. So $392. It's 188. Okay. Wait. Why are you not? No. Man, I got rid of my breakpoint. Right, so let's... So, disabling this breakpoint for a second here. Players at 357. And 357, I guess, is what, 165? 165, okay. So the level max Y is 201, which is 513. So let's see. So if we take Y world position, we get 1. Level max Y is, where is that at? That's at, let's just put this in here. $102. Oh, is it 102 or 201? Those are two different values. Probably 201 based on the player's position and the... Okay, so... So we're comparing 201, so 2 against 1, which means it's bigger, which means that, so this was smaller than that. So compare gets you, you have your carry is set, it's not equal. So that's good. Well, no, it should at that point just have skipped. Wait, are they the same? Is that what happened? Oh, they're the same. So it's 1 and 1. That's okay. So that's wrong. That was, I think, the I think that was just. Let's see here for a second. Yeah, so the lower byte is in Y position, and then Y. Okay, I had it right there. I don't know why. What possessed me to change it, but I'll chalk that up to being tired as well. So Y world position is 66. Level max. No, this is okay. So it is reversed. Right, because this is, yeah. I guess consistency would have been good. Level max Y is at 9F. And it's 102. I mean, we could store it consistently so that it doesn't look weird, and doesn't further confuse the issue. Let's do that. Let's try that. So the value for the player is 1. Level max Y plus 1 is 1. They're equal, so now we check the lower byte. It's 89 for the player. Where is that window? The player is at 200. 189. And level max Y, that's 2. So 89 is bigger than that. So it's going to skip the collision check. Huh. That seems wrong. That worked just fine, so what's the deal with that? Just close up everything. It all runs faster at maximum emulation speed. So let's go back into the debugger and look at what the comparison is doing right now. So we're not in repeat scroll mode anymore. We're going to load the player's world position. Starting at 200, 0, what is it going to be, 03E? Is that what we're seeing? And level max Y, that is, 3FO2, huh? That seems wrong. Why is that so wildly out of whack? Let's take a look here. Store Y position, increment Y position +1, and then I added this. Load A param 3, branched, not equal to skip adjustment. So that's that. I mean, that should be... I don't understand where it's getting that crazy value from. Let's see what that calculates right at the outset. One, two. Okay, that's all as expected. Ah. Let's see if we get our breakpoint here soon. I want to see what the camera value is actually set to when we come into here. 1, 2. Okay, so that's reasonable. And then player's position. So why does the camera go... Oh, you know what? That's probably not pointing to the camera anymore, is it? Camera. 6D. Okay, so the player is at 160. Huh. Oh. That could be why. We must not be we must not be switching the player position correctly when we switch over to repeat scroll mode. Yeah, we're not. We're just doing it and then that's it. And the player's position doesn't get changed. So what we need to do, same thing when we go to repeat scroll mode, is we need to take the position and add. That explains that. So load A camera plus camera Y position +1. Clear carry. Let's do this first. Clear carry. Add with carry. Objects. What is it? Plus entity Y world position. Too many pluses here. So So we add that, and then branch carry clear to that over here. Otherwise, we need to well, first let's do this. And then we just do this. If the carry is set, we need to increment Y world position +1. Clear carry, add carry, Y world restore. Yep, that's good. Okay. So let's see if when we loop around, we get, we don't have such a crazy camera position for the player anymore. Now we're in full-on high-speed mode here. Okay, so we've transitioned, so let me just let this run for a little bit here. Well, that was weird. Not even really sure what to make of that. So once the camera hits 0, the player position should get reset based on the offset of the camera, and it's not. Why? All right, so the only thing I can think of is that it's getting overflowed. Either that or we're reading it wrong here. Let's see. False. MU read. Oh, yeah. Probably. No, it's reading a word. So, what happened? We take the Y position of the camera, clear the carry, add the player's current position to it, and then store it into the Y world position of the player. And then if the carry is clear, that means we didn't increment the next byte, but that's still swap to map mode. Let's take a look at this. you doing that? Remove that one. Stop. It's breaking on this as I'm going in reverse, and that is making it unhappy. All right. So the camera Y position is 0. Oh, because, wait, what? No. Oh, you dummy. Okay. Two things. Actually, only one thing. Load A. I didn't add the rest of the camera position to it. Kind of helps to do that. Okay. Let's try it again. So that breaks. Okay, good. That still blows up where it's supposed to. Okay, and then it's funny, like just even having the window open seems to slow it down. No, why are you doing that? Oh, did it not build? Come on, man. Learn to type. That was a waste of time. I feel like the script is most useful here. So close. Come on. There we go. That's a more reasonable value now. Because if we get close to it there, yep, that looks good. All right, so now we're running at normal speeds with the scripting running. Let's make sure we actually collide now that we've transitioned back over. And yes, we do. Excellent. So there you go. That fixed that problem. So let's call it a night. It's past midnight. Went for an hour and 40, which is way more than I wanted to, even with my little rant at the beginning. But as always, thank you for watching. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. You can reach me on Twitter at Clearvis. I'm on Nintendo Age, in the Discord mostly as Zelius, but also in the forums as Zelius. If you want to email me, I'm zelius@gmail.com. And I will see you Thursday on the live stream at 9 p.m. Eastern. That's twitch.tv/Clearvis. And hope to see you there. And have a good night. Thanks. Take care. Bye.